All right, everyone. Welcome to Comics in the Making. My name is Ryan Holgerson. I'm the creator of Slackmatic. And joined by me, as always, is Levi Erickson, creator of The Big. Levi, how you doing today?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. It's hot.
Yeah, yeah. I've gone outside a few times today, and that was a mistake. Way better in here. Way better in here. So, Levi, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about this might end up being a two-parter, but we're talking about starting your own comic. And there are, I think, a lot of things that question or that statement may imply, but for this episode, for right now, I think we're talking about just getting to it and doing the damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So, this is a question that comes up to us quite a bit, even as, I feel like us being small time creators. But, when you set up at a convention and stuff like that, a lot of kids are there and, their impression of, well, that guy's sitting behind the table, so he's obviously a professional. And so we get asked this question a lot, is how do I get started doing this? And my answer, which maybe a lot of people have a hard time with, because really what people are asking when they're asking that question is they want to know the book, they want to know the class that they're going to take, they want to know the steps. How do I get to this point? The problem is there's so many different ways to get to that point. But really, the first step is you have to do the damn thing. And comics has the lowest bar of entry of just about any form of medium out there. Other than maybe, prose writing, where you just need a notebook and a pencil and you can start writing. Well, comics is right there. And I would argue you could draw comics on a notebook paper with a pencil. In fact, maybe that's where you should start. I see a lot of people, they want to know, hey, when can I be good enough to start doing this? And the answer is right now. It doesn't matter how good you are. So and to that point, yesterday I was posting my new comic on Reddit, and there in the comic subreddit, someone had posted a bunch of their samples of their pages and stuff like that. And they said, am I good enough to start drawing comics? Luckily, a couple people had kind of already chimed in and said, just do the comic.
Yeah, because throwing it out there on something like Reddit's, that's like throwing steak out to dogs,
brave man, brave man. That if there's a place where you need to fake it till you can make it, it's fucking Reddit. Like, yeah. So, a lot of people were like, hey, there's no better practice than actually drawing the comic.
Yeah.
But then you had people on there going, well, you've got a really detailed style, maybe you need to simplify that because you're going to get burnt out, and just a lot of advice that may have been well-meaning. I don't think it came from a mean-spirited stance, but I think, if you want to draw a comic, draw a comic. You just
100%.
It's literally that simple.
Yep.
And I think a lot of it is people are scared, and they want to make sure that they're ready.
Yeah,
and
that I think that's part of it. And also, like, what are you envisioning yourself doing? When you say drawing comics, what do you mean when you say that? Because that could mean a few different things. It could mean, I partner up with someone and we make a book and it's great. It could mean I do my own thing. It could mean I get my stuff in front of a publisher and I get hired. So that, to me, if someone posed that question, that's the first thing I think of. What does
right.
drawing comics mean to you? Because to
right.
you, obviously, it's like draw comics.
Yeah.
Take your paper, fold it, draw something on that one, draw something on that one. Hopefully, it has some sort of relation to each other. So you build a narrative. You got a comic.
Right. No, and I think that's fair because I definitely, for me, I do come from a where I do everything myself,
I
and
think
that
we both do. We both do.
we both do, yeah. And to be honest, most of the people in comics that I know, that's what they do. Also, that's what I've always gravitated towards. It's also what I've always tried to push people towards as well.
Right.
Um, and and to be honest, I don't know if I would ever have an answer for, oh, you want to collaborate with somebody, what should I do? Because I mean, I have collaborated with people, um but it but I've collaborated with them because I did my own thing, and they
Yeah.
saw me doing my own thing, and then they wanted to be involved, um or
Yeah.
they liked what I was doing, and so they wanted to use my skill set for whatever they were doing.
Right.
um you know um but I would even argue, for writers who, they want to write comics and don't think they're good enough to draw it. Go ahead and try. I would go ahead and try. I have several friends in comics that do stick figure comics, and they're great. I love them.
There's a huge
And
name that a
mhm,
lot of people should know in underground comics that would do that and then give that to the
cool.
artist, you
And
know.
go online now and look at the most popular comics that are on social media. They're drawn in a super minimalistic style.
Mhm.
Um, you know, what XKCD is literally stick figures.
Yeah.
Um, Chris Halbeck's stuff is pretty much stick figures. Because and it doesn't matter because it's all about the writing, and the writing is great.
Right.
Um, so I would argue, give that a try. And then also, as someone who has had to collaborate with other writers, it's a really good idea for you to know how a comic works,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I've collaborated with writers far too many times, where it's obvious they've never drawn a comic.
Hmm.
They're not really aware of what goes into a page, and will say, let's put 10 panels on this page. Oh,
Right, right. 10 panels, three dialogue balloons per panel,
yeah,
because I got
right.
I got
Oh,
I got
yeah,
a log for the reader. They don't realize that they're, that's what they're coming up with. And sometimes, yeah, there needs to be that that story, that those words to give the context. And but comics are a visual medium, and at the end of the day, it's if you can show it, you don't have to tell it, and you probably better not.
oh, yeah, oh, yeah. No, uh, I try and put as little like writing and word balloons and stuff like that into my book as possible. That's probably a completely different topic. Um, but I
It
personally,
goes within the construction of making the comic.
I hate fucking exposition. I can't stand it. With the exception of the Star Wars crawls.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, and what do they? Well, at least what focus on the first one. What does the first one say? There are good guys, there are bad guys, and they don't like each other, and they're running from the bad guys.
Yeah,
And then they don't say a damn word, and you get these incredible visuals that exactly who the good guys are and who the bad guys are
yeah,
visually. And the
yeah,
dialogue that takes place inside, the Tantive Four is so minimal. They could have been talking about TPS reports,
yeah, yeah.
but what's happening because of the tone and the visuals.
Right, right. And to be fair, you don't even need the crawl at the beginning
No,
of Star Wars. You really don't. Like,
no.
just throw them right in there.
Yep.
Um, I don't know, like if you saw the new Dune movie,
No,
um, I mean, it's a really pretty movie. I think it's kind of boring. That's my hot take. I'm sorry.
no, so it's Dune.
Um,
It's perfect Dune.
yeah, yeah, right. I know. Yeah, I know.
The tradition is alive and well.
I kind of feel like
That's gonna get canceled.
When Peter Jackson did Lord of the Rings, he threw some jokes in there because if he had just done straight Lord of the Rings, it would have
Yeah,
been a fucking snooze fest.
right, right.
But he threw some jokes in. There are no jokes in Dune. There's nothing. But at the very beginning, there's a little tiny exposition like this is, 100,000 years in the future, and intergalactic space travel is using a drug called spice or whatever,
Right,
And to
right.
me, that was still too much. Like in a movie like Dune where there's so much world building and shit like that, you could have just thrown me straight in and I would have figured it out.
Yeah, you could add a scene, much like
Yeah.
they just say in
And I
Star Wars,
and
the
I
Death Star plan's not in the main computer. She must have hidden those
right,
plans.
right.
Tear the ship apart until you find them. You know,
Yeah. And
we know what they want.
I can't help but think that there was a producer somewhere going, well, they're going to be confused. It's just space and a spaceship. What are they going to do?
Yeah,
The viewers got to know. Um,
they
so
will
yeah, no,
know if
I
you do
hate,
your job.
yeah, no, and I hate that stuff. I hate hand holding and writing and stuff like that. Which I think
But we
that's all
love
George
Chris
Lucas
Claremont.
did.
We love you, Chris. We love Chris.
He's all right, but no,
I love you, Chris.
I like some Chris Claremont. Um, definitely grew up with that. But anyway, boy, I feel like we got off on a tangent, but
A
it was
little
worth
bit, but hey, it's
it.
it's the beauty of
Yeah.
scrub buttons or whatever.
So no, we're keeping it. We're keeping
Yeah,
it.
yep.
People need to know my opinion on the Dune movie.
Yeah, yeah, and just at
Um,
this point, they need to get to know us, right?
yeah,
And that might be repellent. Who knows?
they need to know how I feel about the Dune movie.
My brother's gonna have a problem with my Dune comments.
So many people love it, and I'm like, it's pretty. Like it's pretty. I understand, like in the books, I understand like the power that went into that world building, but it's still fucking
let me
boring.
let me show you something. I'm going to show you the Venn diagram of, of Dune people and Green Lantern people. Dude, I have hot takes right out the gate, man. Oh, you've got a Green Lantern. What's going on right now is so amazing.
No jokes in that either. I don't know. I've never read a
I
Green.
mean, not the
I've
current.
never
I'm
read a
talking
Green
when I was.
Lantern comic in my fucking life.
I'm talking when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, no, okay.
You always had to.
I don't think I've ever read a Green Lantern comic. It's never
I've,
happened.
I've got a handful.
Yeah,
I've got a handful. Just because
I was never a DC guy.
Batman,
Um, well, I like Batman.
Batman.
Everyone likes Batman.
Yeah. I mean, come on, yeah.
But you know what?
Static
But you
Shock,
know,
the Ray.
but where I discovered Batman and where I loved him was the fucking Adam West show. Like it being on reruns and serialized. Like, man, I love that.
And then
And I
mom buys
love
you a Batman comic. You're like, what's he beating this guy's head in, mom?
yeah, no. And yeah, I don't know. And I man, it's got the humor and everything. Like I love the original 60s show.
Yeah.
And then really, I don't know if it was before or after, but then it would have been the Tim Burton movie
Oh yeah, the Tim
with
Burton
Michael
movie,
Keaton.
you know, changed everything. We are way off making comics. We are way off that one.
Batman's
Um,
in comics. I don't know what you're talking about.
but making comics, having that decision that you're going to sit down and start doing comics, it all started with Batman.
Val Kilmer is the worst
You're
Batman ever.
so mad at Dune, so mad at Dune because you thought it was going to be Star Wars, back in the 80s, back in like 1981, whatever. And you're like, damn it, where's the Batman TV show? I need to know it.
So, all right. So after I watched the Batman TV show and I got through Tim Burton's Batman, um, by that point though, I was, for me personally, I was hooked on comics,
Yeah.
um, you know, um, and and I think maybe for us, we were, well, at least for me, I kind of felt like looking back on it now, of course I didn't realize that then, but I want to say I was kind of at a bit of an advantage because I didn't have stuff like the internet. So like, and so I just knew I wanted to draw comics and I wanted to put comics out there. And so without really knowing it, I started self-publishing when I was like 13. And I was drawing comics in my sketchbook, and I would have my dad go to Kinko's and print the individual pages off and stuff like that. And then I would just staple them right down the middle.
Oh, sick.
And then I would go to school and I'd give them to friends.
Yeah.
Um, so like, I feel like I mean, I don't feel like I started drawing comics when I was like 13. They're awful. Um, but doing that still gave me a foundation. Um,
Yeah, 100%.
when I, was 17 and actually, printing mini comics and taking them to shows and stuff like that. Um, I wouldn't have gotten there without that initial experimentation in my sketchbook. Um,
Yeah.
and so and again, this is for me, but not once did I ask anybody, am I good enough to do this? Um,
Yep.
and I know that's natural. I know it's natural for people, to ask, am I good enough to start doing this?
Right.
But I also want to say I think for a person coming from that um direction, if that's already in your head, um you're probably never going to get to that point where you're good enough to start.
Well, yeah, especially like, when people as good natured as they may be with their help, you know, sometimes heated, learn to find critique and deal with critique as it comes to you, and
Mm-hmm.
and all that. And but you can always get bogged down saying, "Oh, I need to really work on like how knuckles work." And I would do that when I was a kid,
Yeah.
because I when I got into comics, I've still got the drawings. Some of those first comics I got, I drew panels, copied covers, you know, um immediately. I saw I want to do that. I can do that. But I spent so much time from that point until, I mean, you're already self-publishing mini comics and I'm still trying to get anatomy right, or I'm still trying to like understand, lighting or whatever, which I still don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um but so you can get bogged down with trying to perfect the craft that you don't do the craft. And it really took me years and years until I said, just sit down, write something, and draw it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and
and it's never it's never going to see the light of day unless you do it. You've got to you've got to do it.
100%.
um and everything you just mentioned, stuff that you're working on, knuckle, like I still, oh, I look at my hands and I hate them. um you know uh the drawings of my hands, my real hands are lovely. um but uh you know I work on that in the next page, by doing it
Yeah.
page after page after page. um Coloring, you know coloring is something that I never felt very strong with
Right.
when I first started working uh, digitally. Um, well, the first time a long time ago. And back then, well, the sky's blue, leaves are green,
Mm-hmm.
tree trunks are brown. And it took me a long time of just doing comics over and over and over again to realize, like, actually the sky doesn't have to be blue.
Right.
And honestly, I try and make sure it's hardly ever blue. um I try and, tree trunks. They're usually, I'll usually put a lot of purple in them actually.
Right.
So, and it depends what time of the day, but that's the great thing about comics is you can literally do anything. Um,
Without a doubt,
and you can experiment. You can make the leaves, I don't know, purple or whatever.
well, sure,
Um,
especially if
you
it's
know,
like dusk, or if your story's at night.
yeah. Even if it's not. I mean,
And
look
look,
at
well,
look back
sure,
at the old
a shadow.
classic comics with 64 colors they had to pick, and and they would have people in the background or they would have it in the foreground, and they're just
Yeah.
one solid blue color. It
Yep.
worked.
Yep.
We never thought about it. There,
And the older I
I
get,
never gave it a second thought that that person is all blue. I
yeah.
immediately knew, okay, they're in the background or what, they're separated from this somehow, um, but you don't come to those conclusions without without just sitting down and doing the damn thing.
And
Uh,
that's exactly right. And I was convinced starting out that an artist has to know how to draw literally everything in existence from their mind. I think we talked about that maybe a little bit, when you were merely a guest on the show. I think we went kind of into that realm a little bit. And, I thought that if you did anything reference wise or whatever, you were cheating. Um, like it's like a test. You can look at all the stuff and you can get the Manhattan skyline and you can, look at it. But when you sit at the drawing board, you know, all materials under your desk or whatever, there was no phones then. But, you put all the stuff away. All you get is your pencil and your paper, and you have to render this whole damn page. Otherwise, you are not a real artist. Yeah.
yeah,
And I wish I would have realized much sooner that I didn't have to have that source of frustration. It's okay to reference, and artists have libraries of traditional. And back in the day, they had their morgue files and their
file.
reference libraries and all that kind of stuff. That if you need to just understand how, what does it look like when people are playing volleyball? Because
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and here's the thing. I will say over and over and over again. There's no cheating in comics. Um,
yeah,
and I think most I've seen it a few times online, and I think there are almost always other cartoonists that say it. But I think this was probably about a month ago. I saw someone post. I don't even know what it was in reference to, but they said, "Well, I like my artists to bleed on the page, and I want to see that they're putting that work in." And I try and stay out of.
like what other boss is okay with saying that about their employees?
Right, right. Like,
If I
go
walked in
all the
tomorrow
way off. Like,
and they're
yeah, no,
like,
I'm like, you've got to be out of your mind. And let's not forget, like, the number one selling comic industry right now is manga. And
boom,
they cheat
yep,
all the time because it's so you know, demanding. Um,
yeah, yeah. And we talked about that
no
last
one
week too. Like life
yeah,
expectancy.
no one looks at those pages and goes, "Oh, they had 10 assistants on here." They don't care. Nobody cares.
Yeah,
Nobody cares.
yeah, yep, yep. You know,
So,
so yeah,
uh,
so use the tools that are available to you. Lifting and swiping that maybe gets into some different territory. Um,
yeah,
I saw some stuff at Heroes Con, like flipping through some other creator stuff, and I saw some, you know, I knew exactly what it was and exactly what they changed in order to make it their own. And I I think obviously it shows.
yeah,
And it if it's blatant, then at least it shows that you're trying to figure something out. But if you rely on that, if you lean on that, if that it will become your gimmick. And I don't think that's something that you want to totally be associated with.
Mhm.
You know, having said that, I did an homage Wrightson tribute cover or variant
Right.
cover for my book, but
Yeah.
that's
It's different.
it's a little bit of a different take on the swipe.
Yeah. No, that's different. That's different.
But
Um,
definitely being inspired by the stuff that inspires you 100% will get you on the path, I think. Because
yeah.
when I was a kid, I'd have my paper and I would be thinking about how the artists I liked at the time would draw someone flying towards the camera. And I got that pose and I figured out I could make this arm this way and this leg that way. And then if I did it again, I could reverse them, or I could do the two arm thing. But it was all built around the same kind of pose that was pretty consistent with that particular artist, with their repertoire of action shots,
Yeah.
as it were. So, um, draw inspiration, and if that gets you on the paper, then go, go, go. And the more you go, the more you're going to start figuring stuff out. And the more you're going to start understanding, well, I want them kicking. And you're gonna find tools to get that kick or get the action, or maybe it's just someone standing and like looking out the window, and you'll figure out how to make that the most dynamic, contemplative, shot, and let the writer put all the dialogue balloons down the side. I don't know.
I mean, you got Wally Wood's, what is it, 21 panels that always work?
Yeah.
Have you
21.
seen that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 21, 23? I don't know.
Yeah, I've got a copy of it somewhere. I
Wally Wood's lots of panels that always work.
a couple dozen thereabouts.
Yeah. Every once in a while I will jump to them.
Yeah,
Um
I should print that out and like have it posed.
yeah.
You know.
No, I know some cartoonists that have it like above their drawing board or whatever.
Well, it's got a beautiful aesthetic just as a
Yeah.
piece beyond being a reference. I think if you had a nice print framed of that, I think it'd be like, you know, maybe not on the family wall, but maybe like, the hallway towards the bathroom or something. Yeah,
In the
yeah,
bathroom,
yeah, yeah.
right in front of the toilet.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
So
Education,
just when you're doing your business, you're still doing business.
education by defecation.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Let's put it on a t-shirt.
Uh,
You know, you want to do a comic. You need to do the comic.
yep.
Um, have the confidence in yourself to do it. Um, you know, uh, like I was saying, you're never, you're very rarely going to be satisfied with what you do anyway. So you might as well just start putting it out there.
Right.
Um, or you know what? Maybe not putting it out there. It still doesn't mean you don't do the comic.
There's still
Maybe you do
benefit.
the comic and you don't show anybody.
You'll
Uh,
still you build your skills. You'll build,
yeah,
if you hold yourself to the creation, you will build discipline, and that will affect other areas of your life.
yeah. And I mean, to be honest, there's been a lot of times where I've said to myself, God, I wish I didn't have to do this whole social media thing. Um, and I mean, really, I don't. It's not like I'm getting a whole lot out of it. But it's still in the back of my head, like, well, no, you got to let people know that you're still out there, and
Right.
um, but they, I mean, I think there is something to be said about actually creating in a vacuum, um, and not having any sort of outside noise coming in.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, I don't know. Maybe this will be the last time you've heard from me for a while. Maybe I'll start doing that.
No, 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 not now, not now. This is not the time. You know.
Threads just came out. You gotta post on Threads. You can't just leave when this monumental social media app has come.
Oh, you're sick of social media? Well, try this social media over here.
Ugh,
It's going to be so different.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, you know what though, and to that, where we're talking about, just doing the damn thing. Don't get discouraged if you do post and someone says something negative. You know,
It's gonna happen.
yeah, it is gonna happen. It's totally gonna happen.
And not even negative like, you know, I see you're doing something, which I take as you gotta consider the source. And honestly, rarely does somebody who is a creator, a maker, someone that you're looking up to, someone that you're inspired by, rarely are they gonna like dismiss you like that, and unless you're being a pain in the ass, like at a show or whatever, you know, that's more. But they're gonna be the polite kind of, okay, cool, you're doing comics, keep it up, keep working it, just like what we're saying,
Yeah,
and what we not just advise anyone else watching, we advise ourselves.
right.
Rarely are you going to bring your stuff up to somebody and say, hey, you're good at doing this, what do you think of what I'm doing? Are they going to be a shit to you, especially not face to face?
Oh yeah, no. I mean that's the whole internet, people
Right.
feel like they're hiding behind it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know you do. I know you look at other people's artwork, like when kids and stuff come up to you and they show you your stuff or their stuff. I know you always stay really positive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know, and then I tell them they fucking suck and to get the hell out of here.
You've never done that. you
No,
know
no. I think we both try to stay super positive.
of course.
And honestly, I almost always tell them it doesn't matter what I think.
Yeah.
Um, you need to keep going. Um,
And that's it, uh,
yeah,
I'm stoked just because they're doing something, and they feel like,
yeah.
and how many times has this happened to you where the parents like, oh, my daughter is an amazing artist,
Oh,
and
well,
they're like, oh,
nobody. Yeah, yeah,
mom, what are
yeah,
you doing, get
yeah,
out, you're,
yeah.
and show me your,
Oh, yeah,
you know I kind of feel weird for to be that, I guess, in that weird place of parenting for somebody else. Like, you know,
yeah,
I just want to say, hey, if you don't want to show me, you don't have to show me. It's depending on what you want. Don't worry about your parental oppressor uh trying to force you to do something you're not comfortable with. But
yeah,
but usually it's like, okay, I'll show it, and it's like, hey, awesome. Keep it up.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. It's
next
always, oh man, I've been in a few, I think there's a few times, and we would probably have different answers for this. Um, but uh, you know, it gets a little awkward when sometimes the parents get involved because a lot of times they don't know anything about the industry
yeah.
and or
And they're
lack
usually
thereof.
our
And
age.
so it's hard to it's like I always feel like I'm kind of like on that balancing act of trying to say, just do it for the love of it, do it because for fun, you know, um, and trying not to push them into years of art school debt. and,
what's cool.
and
I
that's
mean,
why I don't know why we might have different answers because I know you went through a program
yeah,
um
yeah.
for comics.
Uncle Sam
I
paid for
think
it too.
yeah, I know that's what I was gonna say. Your circumstances are completely different though.
And
Most of the kids.
I would not say if that's your goal, the military is not your way to it.
Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, at least I can say with some level of irony and humor, it's not like we are like a Rob Liefeld or like a Jay Lee that the parent knows and they're pushing their kid like,
Yeah.
like, oh, you could be like him and have movies made about your characters. Oh,
Right.
tell them how to do it. Tell them how to do what you did. You know,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
least on our level, whether the parents know anything about the industry or not, they see we're doing something and they want that for their kid on,
Right.
to some degree until the kid gets about 18, 19, 20, 25, 30, and they're like, shouldn't you be asking for a promotion at your job? Why are you still drawing?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hot take. Oh, it's hot. It's hot. It's hot right here.
It is. No, you know what I was thinking about? Like, I think that's it's such a, well, it's not just American, but you know, that sentiment is, it is very well, we'll say capitalistic, at least. You're, American, of
Shit.
like,
Yeah.
all the time. I mean, I probably at least once a day at a show, when I set up, I get asked, do you do this for a living?
Yeah.
um and it's like, well, who fucking cares? Like, it doesn't, do you like it?
Right.
Do you like it? Do you like what, like, does it matter if, like, I sell enough of this to make a living? um it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
um and and I get parents wanting to, they want the best for their kids and stuff like that,
Always.
and I guess that's where I come in with the, I try and, it's like, yeah, of course I want more people to do comics and stuff like that, but I do also kind of want them to realize you might not necessarily be doing this, for a full-time gig.
Right.
Obviously that's the goal, you know. Or I mean, it might not be. I mean, it's a thing. It's okay if you just do it for fun. I have a lot of friends who,
Hmm.
I mean, I have too, to where I'm like, you know what, I'm just doing this for fun. And
Yep.
the little bit of money that I do make, it's beer and pizza money. It's
Oh yeah.
great.
Yeah. And
Um,
there's a lot of overlap because you got a kid, interested, wanting to do comics, so they're reading a lot more comics and they're reading,
yeah,
and then they start to fall in love with storytelling and stories, and they're like, oh well, the writer of this comic, he wrote a few novels, or they wrote a few novels over here. Now I'm going to go read some novels from these people,
yeah,
and now they want to write, and now they're reading and drawing informs the mind, I think, of how to do those things better,
yeah,
every time, and it just builds. And when you talk to that parent, and sometimes the parent who's skeptical, somewhat disinterested, I knows that Spider-Man and the Avengers are a big thing in the movies, so they're at the con with the kid, and the kid, maybe the kid's leveled up as far as their fandom goes, and then you say, yeah, if you want to get better at this, you might want to keep doing what you're doing, but also read these things. And you watch the parents go, oh, read these things, because it's not just drawing cartoons all the time.
yeah,
I wish it was.
yeah, yeah. Um, right. No, I mean, I'm trying to figure out where to go from there. Because
It's just like it's like Genesis. It's like origin stories. How does that seed get planted that blossoms into the rudimentary comic strip that probably every kid draws at some point with
well,
with crayons, and then develop into a lifelong passion.
and I'll tell you what, I've had a few times over the last 20 years, not a lot, but I've had a few times where I've had artists reach out to me and tell me that they started a project and it was because of me. Not, and to be honest, I mean, a lot of the times it wasn't even because we had
Nice.
an actual conversation or anything,
Yeah.
but it's because I would put stuff out regularly. And I did, again, I did the damn comic, so I mean, so
Mhm.
that was kind of like me saying I want to draw this comic and drawing a comic, and these artists saying, seeing that I just did it and I wasn't
Yep.
waiting for a publisher or anything like that. That was what gave them the push to do their own thing. And
And
so when I've gotten feedback like that, I mean, that's, man, that's like, you know, that's the, that's why we do it. that
and
and the money and all the women and the drugs. But other than that, that's why we do it.
I thought that was yeah, I thought that was why we were in bands for that. That's a different episode. We That'll be an episode just our bands and our music stuff.
You
Like
know what? You know what though? To
pull
me,
back the curtain.
well, to me though, I mean that's like it's the same thing though, I mean like, as far as
Yes.
like starting a band and stuff like that, like I'd never been in a fucking band before. I'd never performed in front of people before. I had to get to that point where I just said, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Um
Right.
it was the same as it was this especially like writing music. Like when I started writing music,
Hmm.
I just wrote music. I just started writing music. Like, and I never played a song. I mean, really, I was too embarrassed to, but I never, at that point, when I first started doing it, I never played a song and went up to someone and said, "Am I good enough to write a song now?"
Right.
Um, because I wasn't. I mean, I barely knew the chords. Um, I just started going. That reminds me, we're both in punk bands.
Yep.
I can't remember the artist, but there's a old punk rock cartoonist. He's from England, and there was a strip that said it starts off with a want ad, and it goes bass player wanted, and then it shows this punk rock guy, and he's got a bass and a drum kit next to him, and the guy goes, all right, so show us what you can do on the bass. And the last panel is him holding the drumsticks, and they go, "You're hired." So,
That's on point.
but
That's
so that to me, that kind of like that feeds back into what we're talking about. Like, just fucking do
yeah.
it, you
Yep.
know. And
Yep.
that I mean, me and you do come from punk rock, and so that is kind of punk rock, where it is, um, musicians that aren't musicians that don't know how to play their instruments, maybe, you know,
Yep.
just doing it because they saw the Ramones last week and they want to start a band. I mean,
Right.
that was the old saying that the Ramones spawned 10 punk bands every place they played or whatever.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so I mean, and shit, me and you are doing it right now. We don't know how to do a podcast. We don't know how to do a YouTube channel. We just did it, you know.
That's right.
Um,
We didn't
and
didn't sit
and
there thinking, hey, do we have our flow? Do we have our you know, hey, welcome to the YouTube channel over here doing the YouTube
yeah,
thing. And I got the
yeah.
YouTube personality on right now. And you can like and subscribe down
We
below.
just
I mean,
the Dune movie sucks. And
and so
Adam
Green
West,
Lantern, fuck
Adam
Green
West is the
Lantern.
best Batman. And I've never read a Green Lantern comic. And you should start comics. You should just start
Yeah,
drawing comics.
that's the takeaway. That is the takeaway tonight.
So we're gonna look back at this in a year. But that's the thing. We're gonna look back at this in a
Wait,
year.
wait. The
And
conversation is going to be why does no one like us? We're shunned by everyone we
yeah,
used to know.
yeah.
We're going to look back at
I'm
it.
you know what? I'm wrong though, because in a year the video is gonna be I saw Doom Part 2 and it sucked.
Dune still sucks. March
Still boring. Still
the,
boring.
the July 6th, 2024 episode. We got it. Bookmark this. The title is going to be Dune still sucks and fuck Green Lantern.
Dune sucks. Fuck Green Lantern.
All
Uh,
hell Adam West.
yeah. Val Kilmer and George Clooney, not good Batmans.
They're good at other things.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah. If if you want to do something, I think there's nothing stopping you but you know.
Mhm. Yep.
So
You have to get
so
out of your own
do
way.
it and figure it out. And I do think I mean I think it's always been like that, but I do think it is kind of worse now in a world of social media and
Mhm.
YouTube channels and stuff like that. Because I mean, I'm sure mine and yours algorithm on YouTube is probably pretty similar. And so I see a lot of videos of like it's all clickbait, and I get it. We're
Yep.
gonna have some clickbait things too about Dune. But they're they're all they're always like every comic book artist does this. and shit like that. Like I'll always
You
see
know,
titles like that. They all do
five
this.
things you must do
Yeah,
to do
right,
comics.
right.
You
And
know, breathe,
I
have a pencil.
yeah, yeah. And I don't watch those videos. I can't stand them.
Oh, dude,
But
I don't watch what culture videos anymore because I got deep in the interview process to be an editor, and they turned me down, and so I was like, wow, fuck you. I'm not watching
which
what culture anymore.
which one?
What culture? They did like what culture? They had a comics one. They still
Oh
do.
yeah,
It's usually like countdown formats. I think they've changed, and I'm honestly, it's a me thing. It's a me problem. It's not a them problem. They were. I did get deep in the interview process, and
yeah.
they were cool. Back and forth and all kinds of stuff to help me get in the position. But ultimately, they went with somebody else. So, but I'm still salty.
It sounds like a them problem. What would you have been doing? Like,
Editing
would you,
videos,
huh?
editing videos.
Oh, editing videos.
Yeah, putting title cards and intros and outros mainly.
Well, you know what though? I so again, I think this goes back. So now you have your own YouTube channel and you're editing your own videos and you're doing title cards and stuff like that
Yeah.
here. And so what you can, then other potential jobs might be able to come your way because you're doing that on a regular
Yeah. Yeah.
basis. And now
Yeah.
you can show that you can do that. I mean, it's just like I said, I mean, there have been a few times in my life where I've had paying comic book work. Um, and that all came from uh, doing my own comics.
Mhm.
None of that would have come to me if I wasn't doing my own comics and putting them out there.
Yeah. And I think especially
Never, because no one would have known who the fuck I am.
yeah, and that's just kind of the way people find things now. Anyways,
Yeah.
you have to have something out there. I mean, gone are the days of standing in line in front of a booth that has an editor, you
Oh
know,
yeah. No, they don't. There is no
giving yeah,
portfolio reviews anymore at Marvel and DC.
yeah,
There's no way for you to apply there.
right.
And
But if
also,
you
why would you want to? I,
100%,
and
100%.
I mean, that's just me. I mean, we could go down that tangent,
That's a
but
different episode.
well, yeah, well, but it still feeds into me, saying, if you're gonna start your own comic, it's gonna be, I would assume, gonna be something that you're creating and you're writing.
Mhm.
Um, and it's better to own and control your own work.
Yep.
In my opinion. I mean, and I'd like to say my opinion, but I mean, just and it's hard to convince people because they don't like hearing it.
Mhm.
I worked with a guy who had started writing, like not comics or anything, but he had started writing and he was writing like articles and
Yeah.
shit. But he knew I was a writer and an artist and into music and stuff like that. And so he would have me read some of his stuff or whatever. And then he started writing like prose, like he was writing some I don't know, some kind of horror fantasy book or something like that. And he had me read some of it and I said, yeah, man. I was like, dude, put it up on Amazon and print it yourself and start putting it online. And he was like, oh no, man, I think I'm gonna try and get it published or whatever. And I was like, you're not gonna have an audience and you're not. I was like, I'm sorry, you're I'm not. I was like, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but you're actually gonna make more money if you sell it yourself. And he couldn't. He literally he said, well, Stephen King's first advance was like $200,000, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, first of all, that was 40 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
And those advances don't fucking exist.
No.
They might have your Stephen King now, but I bet you even Stephen King writes a lot of books. So I would even bet that some of his smaller books, he doesn't get that kind of advance.
No. No.
Um, but I read an article or I heard a podcast or something. Um, it's like 98% of the books published right now sell less than 2,000 copies. 98% of the books
Yeah.
published. in the fucking country don't even sell 2,000 copies. And I hate to tell you, if you're one of those authors, there is no money. You're not,
Right.
if you're being published, if you're being published and you're only selling 500 to 1,000, if you're selling 2,000, you're not making any money. You might owe them money. If they actually paid you in advance, that
That's
might not
right.
cover your advance.
That's 100%
And,
right.
and
And
that's it. But
the
if you
record,
published it yourself and you sold 2,000 copies, guess what? You're probably doing pretty good.
oh yeah. And then
Because,
you can get the attention,
yeah.
of the publisher, and now you're on a different tier.
Well, I
Same
mean,
goes with comics,
but not just that. I mean, you're like, I think like the standard, like just I mean, like a standard per book royalty. And I'm talking more novels. It's going to be even less with comics. I mean, I think Image has one of the best um profit sharing um deals, and it's like 12 cents a book.
Yeah.
They're the best. 12 cents a book. So this right here is a mini comic that I published.
Yep.
It's not very long, but I paid for it myself, printed it myself, I put it together myself. I sell this. I don't remember what I sell it for online, but it might be $3, and that includes shipping and handling.
Yep.
Um, I get about $1 in profit from that.
Right.
So, and I've got books that I sell for a little more where I get a little bit more out of that. Um, so what's the advantage of getting a publisher to do it? I would literally,
That's the
and
big
here's
way.
the
People are going to say
and
distribution,
no, but see,
and
that's bullshit too. Because, well, no, because first of all, the most publishers now, they're going to go look, and they're going to look at your social media, and they're going to see how many followers you have.
yeah.
Because guess who's going to be promoting the book? You're going to be promoting the book.
Oh yeah, 100%. You know,
So so
same goes
now,
with bands.
right.
If you're
So
putting
now
out
you're in
records,
yeah. So now you're in the situation where, okay, someone is publishing my book. So now I don't have to deal with the pre-press and stuff like that. I don't have to deal with distribution. Okay, they're taking that off my plate. But I'm gonna make fractions upon fractions of what I would have made if I made it myself.
right?
And they're still expecting me to promote it.
Yeah.
Like they're not, it's yeah. I mean, that's something where like I said, there's people that just don't like to hear it, because
Well, no,
in
they're
most people's heads, having a publisher means you're making a living or you're in a better situation.
right.
Um,
Like you
and
really
it's
broken in.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
and it's just not true. It's just not.
just like being signed to a label.
Yeah, no, no, yeah, exactly. It's the exact same. Um, yeah, I mean, we never, when I was in the band, we never tried to get a label or whatever, but I never wanted to. I was like, well, what's the fucking point? Like, we were already producing our own stuff.
Hmm.
We were already recording our own stuff. My old drummer recorded all three of our albums. Um,
Right. When it
in his
comes to
shed.
that, I mean, when it comes to that, and you're thinking about approaching someone to help some aspect of your production in terms of, like some sort of management, some sort of publisher, some sort of label, some sort of place, the number one question is, well, the first thing you have to consider, if I'm seeking them out, then they're not going to open the door.
Yeah, probably not.
And but when they do start to come to you, when you do start having them trickle at you and start, you know, pitching, you really got to think about, because that can be exciting to have someone who, oh,
Oh yeah.
I manage, these people over here, in terms of bands, or, they publish over here, a distribution like this. It's like, well, how do you provide something that I'm not already doing for myself,
Yeah.
and that I can't achieve, easily enough? And that's the bottom line. because
Yeah.
when you sign on, you are signing to you're signing away some of the fruits of your labor. And
Yeah.
sometimes that is a compromise you're willing to make for the benefit.
Yeah.
But on those lower levels, it may not be the best move to make. Um, Especially when you start getting into rights and who gets control and all that yada yada. Chances are they have a lawyer, you probably don't. And
Yeah.
you may read what you're signing, but you may not understand it.
Oh, no.
And we
I would, if you're getting to that point, get a fucking lawyer. Oh my God.
Oh yeah. And I think we put the cart way ahead of the horse. Um but it's a conversation that we get into because you and I, we love talking all aspects of comics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing though. Like, when I first started doing comics, I mean, yeah, yeah, I wanted to be, doing it for a living by the time I was my age and stuff like that, for sure. But honestly, I'm doing I'm doing what I wanted to do. Um,
Yeah.
I actually, at most, I wanted to be published by like Fantagraphics, you know, maybe Image or something like that. I was into Image, but but even then, by the time I was 15 or whatever, I was so fully into independence, and my heroes were, Jeff Smith,
Yeah.
who, I mean, and I mean that's the thing, you know, Jeff Smith, I wouldn't call it an empire that he created, but I mean, you know,
A legacy
absolutely a
for
legacy.
sure.
I mean, that one volume, Bone, so he still owns, obviously, Scholastic puts out the color versions of Bone. Um, and obviously that's good for him, and that spreads you know, the word about it. But that's the thing. So like Bone ended what, 20 years ago, probably at this point.
Hmm.
Um, what was the mid 2000s? So almost 20 years, I think.
Jeez.
Um, he
Don't
still
don't say the mid 2000s were 20 years ago.
I'm pretty yeah, I mean
No, they were.
it is. Did I wait
2003 was
wait
20 years
am
ago.
I that
It's
bad at
just I
math?
don't want to hear it. No,
Well,
no, you're right. You're
uh,
right. 2003 was
you
20 years
know,
ago, but I don't want to hear it.
so yeah. So anyway, so he still owns the rights. I mean, obviously he still owns the rights for Bone altogether,
Yeah.
but it was in his contract with Scholastic that he was still able to print the one volume of Bone, like the giant phone book looking one that's
Yeah.
black and white. So his company, Cartoon Books, this publishing house, it still prints that copy. It's in its like 16th printing.
Wow.
So that's, he's created something that still he's still reaping the benefits of.
Yeah.
Um, it wouldn't be like that if it was another publisher, you know.
Right.
I mean, well, obviously he's distributing it. He has employees that he pays and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But he gets all of that profit. That's his.
Yep.
There's no, that's his. So, um, yeah. So to me, yeah, no, yeah, maybe we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but I mean, for me, this is what I wanted to do. So I didn't really want another publisher, you know. Um,
And I can say like because I started, I pivoted back to comics just a couple years ago, and I'm working on getting my first full issue out. The mini comic, chapter one, the 12-page comic is out, and there's plenty on my Etsy store. Uh, Link in the description below. but but I don't even know if that's supposed to be a Bigfoot. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think about it because when I was a kid and I moved to California, I'm 18 years old, and I would go around. I was in LA County, but I'd go around and try to figure out where Extreme Studios was. They were down in Orange County.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really know the landscape that well. Um, and I was like, oh, I had a feeling like you just get in front of one of these guys and they'll scoop you up, Um, and that may have happened. And if it had, that would have been 2002, 2002, shit, 92, 93. What happened in 96?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those guys didn't come back,
Oh yeah, no, they all work in video games and stuff now.
you know. Um, so I'm really happy to be in comics now, like what you said. You know, we
Yeah.
we grind, and our families get what our what we're doing, and I feel like I'm doing some of the best work of
And
my life.
and you
Yeah,
know, and this is the best time to be an independent creator.
and I that's the other point I was going
You
to say.
know,
There's
yeah.
no better time to be
I
that.
mean, things like, Kickstarter didn't exist
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago. Patreon didn't exist 30 years ago. Print on demand didn't exist
That's a big
years
keyword
ago.
right there.
I remember, and we've got like 4 minutes, so I'm trying to be quick. But I there was a printing co-op uh back in the late 90s, and I remember thinking about getting on there. And it was a good price to print 1,000 books.
Right.
And that's something we don't, and it was probably still almost $1,000 to print 1,000 books.
Oh yeah, it was probably like
Um,
a one
yeah,
dollar a copy.
right, right. And we don't have to worry about that anymore. You
No,
can either
not at
do the
all.
print on demand route, or you can do the Kickstarter. And Kickstarters, I mean, that's free. It either works or it doesn't. So you're
Yep.
not out. You're
Yep.
not out anything. You know,
Oh, exactly.
do your
And
research, get the math right. I hear lots of horror stories of people going, "Oh, I was $20,000 over on my Kickstarter and I didn't make any money." Well, that's because you're a fucking idiot.
yeah,
I,
how is that possible?
yeah, no, I've heard it, dude. I've heard it. I've heard it, and it's like because you did not do the math. Shipping is expensive. It's almost always shipping because they didn't figure any shipping into their Kickstarter.
Yep.
Um, yeah, sorry, I'm an asshole, but no, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. If you went that far over on your Kickstarter and you didn't make any money, you're an idiot.
No, for real. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So, but yeah, so I think that wraps it up. Now you guys know what we think about starting comics. Just fucking do it. You know that we don't care about Dune, and don't send us any copies of Dune. We're just gonna burn them. Um,
I'll make a fort out of
and
him. Out
you
of
know,
him.
and you know what we'll do is we'll make an entire fire pit in the backyard of dunes, and then in the middle we'll throw Green Lanterns on there. And our pictures of you know Val Kilmer as Batman. I don't know. Is that in poor taste? Val Kilmer is kind of sick right
Oh,
now.
we'll have an. Oh, yeah, yeah.
All right, George Clooney. George Clooney's fine.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
can beat up on him a little bit. We'll have an Adam West Batman standee overseeing the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. R.I.P. Um,
Yep, yep, yep.
all
Um,
right, so we got about a minute left. So thanks for joining us for the most concise and straightforward conversation we've ever had on comics in the making.
yeah, we're getting our flow.
Um,
We're getting our groove. This is more like us on the
so
phone
this is how it's always going to be.
or in person.
It's never going to be better than this moment right now. It's like your first hit of heroin. This is as good as it gets. All right.
Until all the Dune copies are destroyed.
Yeah. Uh, but make sure you hit that like button. Please subscribe, and
Share.
yeah, share it.
Don't
Yes,
be
tell your
greedy.
friends.
We are
Tell your
for your
friends
friends. We're for everyone.
about the two idiots blabbing about comics.
The two
Until
other
next, until next time, we'll see you later.